Hi everyone. In this presentation, let us know about various treatment options available to treat progressive myopia in kids. Myopia has taken a form of an epidemic. Almost 50% of total world population will be myopic by 2050. Most of the myopia is seen in teens and young adults, hence it is very important to learn the options available to treat myopia. There is an epidemic of myopia in East and Southeast Asian countries with prevalence of myopia in young adults around 80 to 90%. High myopia is also very common, seen in up to 20% of young adults, and is attributed to early onset myopia and rapid progression. Intense education and limited time outdoors play major causal roles. Now, why do we need to treat myopia? Of all the preventable causes of visual impairment, myopia accounts for around 53% of the cases. The best way to control myopia is to detect it early. It is important if we can prevent low myopes to progress to high myopes. Specific sight-threatening complications to high myopia can include early cataract formation, peripheral retinal tears leading to RD, myopic retinoschisis, macular hole, posterior staphylomas, CNVM and glaucoma. So why do we need to know different options of treatment? There are different treatment options available like glasses, progressive lenses, orthokeratology, pharmacotherapy. These all options we will be knowing in details in the coming slides. Now all the options may not be suitable for everyone. All approaches play a role in management of myopia as needs and requirements of an individual vary based on the age, suitability, affordability, safety, subjective needs and rate of progression. Few people may not be willing to go ahead with some options, like some parents may not want their kids to wear progressive lenses. Sometimes some options might be superior to other options in certain situations. Sometimes your colleagues may want an opinion on which option to choose. Sometimes parents might want, they might have read about something and might want an opinion. Now, many of these options are still being compared to understand their superiority over other options, their recurrences, chances of failure, complications. So, we should be able to explain this to the parents who come with high hopes to us. Also, sometimes some treatment options may lack long-term efficacy data and rebound on discontinuation of myopia control products. Now, let us understand terminologies before understanding the treatment of myopia, which is the basis for various treatment options. The myopic defocus and hyperopic defocus. Here we are not talking about the peripheral defocus. So basically, eye length and refractive status can be altered by imposing defocus with spectacle lenses or contact lenses. Under these conditions of defocus, the eye can speed up or slow down the rate of elongation. So we all know this basic physics of refraction, right? Now, plus lenses produce a myopic defocus and minus lenses or concave lenses produce a hyperopic defocus. So, to treat a myopia, we need to produce a hyperopic defocus. And this is the principle used to treat myopia using single vision spectacles. But over a period of time, researchers studied the effect of slightly undercorrecting myopia. So primarily it means giving a less hyperopic defocus, and they have found out that undercorrecting myopia actually causes faster elongation of eyeball and faster progression of myopia. So it is now understood that myopia should not be undercorrected. Another thing to understand is role of accommodation in progress of myopia. So assessing accommodative functions such as measuring near lag of accommodation is a vital component in understanding myopia profile of your patient. Myopic progression in children and adults can be influenced by binocular vision function. There is an association between higher levels of esophoria and accommodative lag at near in myopic children and young adults as compared to emmetropes. Studies have also shown that myopic children and young adults show insufficient accommodative response to lens induced blur, greater variability in accommodative response, reduced accommodative facility, and higher AC by A ratios when compared to age matched emmetropes. The simplest way to measure accommodative lag is with near retinoscopy and a pair of flippers, with patient wearing a full correction for distance and +1 flippers at place. Ask the patient to focus on your nose or a card fixed to the retinoscope at a distance of around 33 to 40 centimeters. So normally emmetropes will show up plus 0.5 or +1 lag of accommodation, while people with higher results are at an increased risk of myopic profile. This principle of lag of accommodation is used in treating myopia with progressive addition lenses. Now, COMET study was a large multicentric randomized study on 469 subjects, in which the participants were divided into two groups, one those wearing single vision lenses and the other wearing progressive additional lenses. And they found that there was a statistically significant difference in progression of myopia in kids wearing progressive additional lenses versus single vision lenses. Now, from myopia control point of view, esophoria and accommodative lag are key clinical findings in assessing your patient's visual efficiency, and thankfully both will usually respond positively to near addition lenses. However, not all patients need near addition lenses. COMET 2 trial was specifically focused in learning the progression of myopia and role of progressive additional lenses in kids with lag of accommodation and near esophoria. A +2 near addition lens was prescribed to kids in the PAL groups. The difference in the two groups was found to be statistically significant but not clinically important. Now, coming to the concept of peripheral defocus, wherein the central zone of the lens provides a sharp and uncompromised distance vision. However, the periphery of the lens has a specific design which produces a myopic defocus and thereby reduces progression of myopia as compared to the normal single vision lenses. The CLAMP study was the one which compared use of RGP lenses versus soft lenses, and found that RGP lenses were not superior to soft lenses in treating progression of myopia. The corneal curvature of the soft contact lens wearers steepened more than that of the RGP wearers, but the axial length continued to grow, and that difference was not statistically significant, and the effect on corneal curvature was temporary. Now, similar principle of peripheral defocus is used in orthokeratology, and normal spectacle lenses produce a hyperopic defocus in periphery, which can lead to elongation of eyeball further. However, the ortho-K lenses and the myovision glasses both have multifocal shape of the lenses, and the ortho-K lenses change the corneal curvature, which decreases peripheral hyperopic defocus, reducing stimulus for eye elongation. So it can achieve both the goals, one of correcting myopia and second reducing the progression of myopia. The CRAYON study and the LORIC study are two largest studies in favor of use of ortho K lenses, comparing use of ortho K gas permeable and soft contact lenses, where ortho K lenses showed a statistically significant lesser rate of myopia progression. Now, past 2 decades have seen a tremendous research in pharmacotherapies in treatment of myopia progression. Human trials have been done using various pharmacological drugs like atropine, cyclopentolate, pyrazipine, tropicamide, 7-methylxanthine, timolol. The selective muscarinic receptor antagonist like pyrazipine and tropicamide have shown no clinical report. As of now, no clinical report has been published, and there are no approved products for use. The scleral growth can be controlled by reducing the eye pressure and thereby preventing axial elongation. This was the principle behind using 0.25% timolol twice daily. However, no promising results have come forward till date. Till date, many trials have shown or proven role of atropine in reducing progression of myopia. It is yet to be understood whether atropine exerts its action through antimuscarinic activities or via direct action on tissues or via action on other receptors. Now, the ATOM trial was the biggest, the largest study on use of atropine in treatment of progressive myopia. ATOM 1 study used 1% atropine and it showed significant effect on controlling the progression of myopia. However, it had more side effects in terms of pupil size, near vision, and photophobia. Then came the ATOM 2 study, which compared the role of atropine 1%, atropine 0.1%, and atropine 0.01% in reducing progression of myopia. And statistically, there was no difference in reducing progression of myopia in all the three groups. However, 0.01% was found to be superior in reducing the side effects, and now 0.01% atropine is commercially available for use. However, long term results are yet to be studied. Also, the rebound phenomena after stopping the pharmacotherapy is a known phenomena. The rebound phenomena is known to occur rapidly in the first 6 months of discontinuation of drug. Rebound phenomena is also known to occur with ortho K lenses, and studies have shown that discontinuation of ortho K lenses below 14 years of age have led to rebound phenomena. Now, we have seen so many studies, both in the optical group, the pharmacological group, and there are so many ongoing studies as well. Now, how do we decide which study is, showing promising result, and which of the treatment protocols or which treatment you can follow? Now, Cochrane database has studied all the studies done for myopia progression so far, and it has come out with an outcome which is which treatment showed a low evidence, which treatment showed a moderate evidence, and which treatment showed a high evidence pertaining to control of myopia. And they found that pharmacotherapy with antimuscarinic drugs like atropine, pyrazipine, cyclopentolate have shown a moderately certain evidence. Then multifocal spectacles, progressive addiction lenses, orthokeratology, all these have showed moderately certain evidence. However, the RGP lenses and soft contact lenses didn't show a promising result. And there are still ongoing many trials, 65 ongoing trials as of today across globe, studying various treatment options available for myopia, both optical as well as pharmacotherapy. One study is going on to study the long-term effects of ortho K lenses. Then ATOM 3 study is the study which is meant for studying prophylactic use of atropine 0.01% in kids less than 5 years of age whose parents are myopes. Then another study is on role of ICL surgery. Then various pharmacotherapy like trials on timolol is going on. 7-methylxanthine is known to strengthen the sclera by strengthening the collagen fibers of posterior sclera, and it is also being studied in controlling progression of myopia. Now, what of all the recent studies, atropine 0.01% is so far the most widely accepted study. And let us discuss what protocol we follow for atropine 0.01% in our hospital. Children between 6 to 12 years of age are included in for the treatment. Atropine sulfate 0.01% is prescribed every night in both the eyes, and visits are advised at baseline 2 weeks and then every 4 months. At each visit, we check a best corrected visual acuity, do a cyclorefraction, check the axial length, check accommodation amplitude with RAF ruler and pupil diameter. So, how long we treat, that has to be seen based on the results. If some kids are not responding to atropine 0.01%, so whether we should go for atropine 0.1%, whether we should make it a BT dose, and how long we continue to treat, as all the things which are yet under evaluation, they are yet being studied, long term results are yet being studied. Now, certain facts and myths about treatment of myopia, because parents usually come with all these questions to us. What is true? So, sunlight exposure has been studied and it has found to be useful in reducing progression of myopia. Not reading in bad light conditions, not doing excessive near work, and that is limiting the use of gadgets and mobiles in kids. So the WHO recommends no screen time in kids less than 2 years of age, less than 1 hour of screen time for kids between 2 to 5 years of age, and less than 2 hours of screen time for kids between 5 to 18 years of age. Another question asked by parents is how much sunlight exposure. It greatly depends on the age, skin type, geographic location, season, and time of the day. It is said that morning and before noon sunlight is best. Also, depending on the season, sunlight exposure of 30 minutes to 60 minutes is recommended in India. And what should you eat? Although no individual study has shown results on of effect of any diet on progression of myopia, but fish, green leafy vegetables, egg, carrots, berries, nuts, all these are good sources and can be taken. I usually tell parents that actually there is no harm in eating healthy, and so you should go ahead with all fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, which can be healthy for your eyes. Now, there is a long list of myths. However, none of these myths have found any place in scientific research. So, people keep trying it, but uh, we can't comment on any of that since they have not found any place in scientific literature. Now, what is important is to give parents a realistic picture of the problem. Don't say that it's a huge problem which cannot be treated. I usually say it's just a glass power, and more than 50% population wears glasses. It's not a disease. Then give them realistic expectations. Don't tell that power is going to reduce. Give them a reference to the literature about what they have doubt, so that they can go and read about the problem. If you are prescribing glasses to young myopes, then advise not to go ahead with very expensive glasses, as myopia may progress and parents might have to change the glasses. Some parents at the beginning itself are so obsessed with reducing the power and they appear so sad while the child also looks so depressed. So try to counsel them not to be so obsessed with it. So, to conclude, there are various approaches available for treatment of progression of myopia, namely the spectacle. Spectacle based myopia control approaches include bifocal lenses with or without prisms, like three base diopter prisms have been studied for near segment for people with myopia with near esophoria. Then there are progressive addition lenses and peripheral defocus lenses. The second group, contact lenses for myopia control, include multifocal or specially designed multifocal like lenses. Orthokeratology, in which the optical zone of rigid contact lens incorporates a central zone that is flatter than flattest corneal curvature and a steeper mid-peripheral reverse curvature. And pharmacological agents, uh, the overall efficacy varies among different approaches, and the long term efficacy, rebound effect, and risks, although rare, for developing sight threatening complications such as microbial keratitis with contact lenses and ortho K lenses, and adverse effects on accommodation with atropine need to be given due consideration. But overall, the emerging data are promising and will significantly help in reducing the risk of the eye reaching higher levels of myopia. Thank you so much for your attention.